Welcome back to the interview, everyone. My name is Susan Lee MacDonald, and I am your host. Many of us have a place that we consider our hometown, and a lot of times it's less than 50 miles from where we were actually born, and other people choose to make their hometown halfway around the world. We're going to meet an American who has chosen Korea as his home. He's fallen in love with the food, culture, and the language. And he's probably one of the interview's most funny people that we will have to date. Let's go meet PJ Rogers right back there.
Hello!
Hi,
Welcome!
PJ. Hey, great to see
Good
you.
to see you.
Thank you so much for having me at your
Come
place.
on in this house.
Awesome. Something smells really good.
You smell something? Well,
Yeah.
I don't wear this all the time. Come on
say.
in.
Wow. What a beautiful
Welcome to our home.
Thank you. What a huge, wonderful place.
Well, we are, as you can tell, we are cooking.
Wow.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. Wow.
We have some cookies that were just brought out.
Oh, this looks amazing. Wow, you're doing that really well there.
What do
Very
you say,
skilled.
Jada?
Thank you.
And if you're really special, you might talk Jada into giving you a one.
Oh, really? Jada, can I please
Jada,
have
you want to
one?
get her a napkin? Here, get a paper towel and give her one on a paper towel.
Wow. Oh, this is so exciting. I love chocolate chip cookies, especially fresh baked ones.
Yes.
There's nothing quite like
They
it.
are
But you
good.
can't have one without milk.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, thank you so much.
Here's your cookie.
Wonderful, thank you. Wow. Am I the only one who's going to be eating this?
Actually, our kids all like to taste test it during it.
Aha.
And so you haven't been the only one to eat one.
Okay, all right, let me
Need
taste it.
some water.
You want to get one? Okay.
It's really good.
We
Delicious.
all made it.
Well, I'm so impressed. You guys can have your own shop if you wanted to.
Yes, we might open up our own shop.
Well, I'm looking here and I see these huge tubs of sugar and flour, so it seems like you do this quite often,
You know
yes?
what? There's probably not a lot of homes that have this much sugar in them. This is a lot
Yeah.
of sugar to have in a home. But it's because we bake so much. And that is one of the things I love to do, Susan, is I
Yeah.
love
My
to bake.
dad bakes every time.
Really? Wow.
How often does Dad bake? Sometimes or all the time?
All the time.
How
All the
often
time.
does Mama bake?
Never.
Well, first of all, let me introduce my children,
Okay.
if I may.
Absolutely.
The first one, the oldest one is here. This
Hi.
one is, what's your name?
Jada.
Jada. This is Jada Rogers, and she is in 4th grade
Wow.
in elementary school.
So tall and beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, going on
That's right.
going on
16.
16. Oh my goodness.
The next is right here, actively getting the cookie dough. This is Amaya,
Hi,
Amaya the
Amaya.
Great. Amaya is 3 years old.
No, I'm 8 years old.
Oh,
She's sure to correct you.
that's right. She's 8. And then the next girl is, what's your name? Leah.
Leah Rogers.
Yes.
Catherine Rogers.
Leah Catherine Rogers.
Aw.
Excuse me, Amaya. And she is going to do her insa. Can you do your
Okay.
insa? 시작.
안녕하세요. 저는 5살 새별바 리아야입니다.
Wow. So it seems like all of your children speak Korean and English pretty well, yes?
They do actually. They've all gone since yuchi or kindergarten, all the way through schooling has all been in Korean school.
Wow.
And so in our home we all speak English, but in our outside of home it's mostly all Korean.
Okay. So have I met all of your kids? I thought
No,
I
you've
saw
only
another...
met 3. Let's see, where is Cooper? Where's Cooper? Let's see, I think he's here. Cooper!
I go get him.
Cooper, come here. Okay, this is Cooper.
Hi, Cooper.
This is Cooper.
Hi, Cooper.
Cooper, say hello.
Nice to meet you. Oh, he wants us to stay with him.
So
Hi,
Cooper, how old are you?
You're 2 years old?
Cooper, how old are you? He's actually 3.
Oh, you're 3 years
he
old.
He just turned
Oh, happy birthday.
3. And we have one more baby that we'll show you when he comes home with mom.
Okay.
And that's our 5th child. So we have 5 children.
The CEO of East West Consulting, PJ Rogers, also known as Kim Mi-nam. Since settling in Korea 14 years ago, he has successfully established a consulting firm providing services to diverse clients, including international companies. And his firm also holds global career forums in Korea. But to the public, he's more well known as the American who fell in love with Korea. When he visited Korea for the first time in the early 90s, he was impressed by the rapid changes and passion and generosity of the Koreans. Believing that a successful career cannot make up for failed family relationships, he considers his wife and 5 kids as his #1 priority. His optimistic attitude and great love for Korea drew wide attention through TV shows, and he even gained the nickname Kim Mi-nam, short for an American man who likes kimchi in Korean. Join me, Susan Lee MacDonald, and let's find out about PJ Rogers on this edition of The Interview. So PJ, thank you so much for letting us come and invade your home, change your furniture around, and set up all these cameras.
You know, you are more than welcome. This is really fun. It's a fun experience for the family, I think.
Awesome. You know, I know you've been on Korean television a lot, and you've also worked with Arirang before doing a radio show. And I'm curious if you've ever had 6 or 7 cameras here at your house.
You know, no, I can say that this first time we've had 6 or 7 cameras. But it's also fun. Most of the TV work that I've done in studio or out on site, and my kids haven't been a part of it. And so for them to kind of see this all in action, it's been fun.
I know that you've got some beautiful children, and they are just so well behaved. I'm curious if you ever have a dream or hope for them to be in broadcasting one day.
You know, I'm okay with my kids being anything they want to be. The biggest thing I want is my kids to have a passion about something. If they have a passion about dance or radio or TV or broadcasting or whatever it is, as long as they have a passion, I'm great.
Yeah. Now, how did you get into broadcasting here in Korea? You've been here for a long time, too.
I have, about 13, 14 years. I've actually lived in Korea. It's been a great ride. My broadcasting experience, I kind of fell into it. A friend of mine said, hey, do you want to do this thing on a cable network? It was HBS, one of the first cable networks. A fellow by the name of Im Baek-chun in Korea. He had a show called Im Baek-chun World Show. And they asked me to be on it once, and it was you had to speak Korean. And normally they invited guests once or maybe 2 times, but for me they kept inviting me back to this show. And in fact, that was where I actually kind of came out with my Korean name.
I really wanted to touch upon your Korean name because you know, your name is what, PJ Rogers, Paul James Rogers,
correct?
And it's so different than Kim Mi-nam. Did you change your name legally to Kim Mi-nam?
No, I have not. I have a couple funny stories about that, but when I first came to Korea, I was sitting in a restaurant with, I think 7 other or 8 other Americans, and you know, you see all the different side dishes we call panchan, right?
Yes.
And most of them, I'm like, what is that? Oh, it is, you know, because my first time to Korea is my first night in Korea, my first meal. And I'm like, I don't like, nothing looks appetizing.
And it doesn't look familiar because you had never been here before.
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm looking at minnows, right? The anchovies.
Yes.
I'm thinking we fish with that. We don't eat that, you know? But what right in front of me was cucumber kimchi, or oisubagi, right? And so I thought, that's a spicy looking pickle. Maybe that'll taste good. So I taste that, and it's really good. And so that meal, all I had was rice and the cucumber kimchi. And it was so good. And the guy in front of me says, you're the kimchi-liking American boy, but he said it in Korean. Kimchi를 좋아하는 미국 남자, you know, and he says, you're the Korean-liking American boy. And that was, they kind of gave me that nickname.
So is Kim Mi-nam something of an acronym of sorts?
Yes, it's an acronym for kimchi, for Kim, 미국, which is, you know, America, and namja, which is boy. So kimchi-liking American boy.
That's too cute. So people know you not only as PJ, but they know you as Minam-shi.
Yeah, most of my Korean friends, especially in broadcasting,
Yes.
nobody knows the name PJ Rogers. They all know Kim Minam.
Well, I know that you know this, but the word Minam in Korean also means really handsome man.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Really? Wow. Thanks for telling me
What's
that.
the coincidence? Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny. So Koreans will say, "Oh, you're so handsome," and I'm like, "No, it means American boy," because it does in Chinese characters.
Yes.
It can mean both.
Yes.
And they're like, "No, it means handsome," and I was like, "Okay, thanks."
Taking a compliment wherever.
That's right, I
Yes,
can take a
But you
compliment.
are a handsome guy, so it's a very appropriate name for you. So you've been in Korea for 14 years now, and I'd like to learn as much as possible about you because you have such a fascinating story. You didn't come to Korea necessarily to stay forever, right?
I did not.
And how is it that you've spent more than 14 years here? You have your family here. I mean, it seems like you're going to just really make this your home.
Well, I tell you, I was working in the state of Hawaii in the United States, and I traveled to Asia a lot. And I loved Asia. I fell in love with just the Asian hardworking, innovative, we're going to get it done type of an attitude. And so I learned Japanese, in fact, when I was in Hawaii. But then when I kept coming back to Korea because I had served a mission for the LDS Church here in Korea, and I never thought I would come back and live. I thought for sure I'd come visit. But when I came back to Korea, there was a sense of, what would you call it? In Korea, there's not a really pure English word to describe it, but the word jung is the word that I really appreciate.
Like a very deep emotional bond, emotional connection with people.
Right. The closest emotion or Korean word, or excuse me, English word that I would say is an emotional bond or an emotional attachment to something. And because of that word jung, in fact, for foreigners that are coming here, if you can understand jung, you will love Korea. If you don't understand jung, there's a lot you're not going to understand about Korea. And so and not that I think I understand it perfectly. I think that's a lifetime process. But that's one of the reasons that I thought, I love being in Korea. Because of that, I have some relationships with older brothers, which we call hyungs here. And then my younger brothers and my seniors and juniors, the way that works in society here.
Yes.
And that's the reason that I love to be in Korea.
And I understand that now you've been working with your own company. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you decided to start your own company.
Starting a business in the United States, for example, 1 out of 7 businesses last more than 5 years. And 1 out of 15 lasts more than 10. Very difficult to start a business and continue that business.
Yes.
We started East West Consulting in 1996. I came to Korea literally with $300 and a plane ticket.
Really?
Yes. I'd miserably failed at a business that I'd started in Hawaii and left that and came to Korea literally $300 and a plane ticket.
Wow.
And which is a difficult thing to do.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I had here is some really good contacts and really good what I call hyungs, right? My older brothers that are very friendly and that would take care of me. And so they really put their arms around me and helped me out. And so although I only had $300 and no place to live, I quickly was able to get a place to live and start my business kind of on we call a shoestring budget to start. And we got a few customers, got a lot of money, lost money, what I call paying a lot of tuition. A lot of, something that I probably would have done in retrospect is go work for a company.
Yes.
And then do consulting for a company and then break off on my own. Because then I wouldn't have paid near as much tuition as I paid. But it was a good experience and I did what I did. And so now I look back at it and I'm grateful for it.
But you decided to stay in Korea for 14 years, and I'm curious, what were some of the main reasons you decided to stay on in Korea once you came back? Not just your first mission trip, but the second time when you came with $300 in your pocket.
Right. Korea is a heartbeat. There's always something happening in Korea. Korea, you know, if you look at the growth of the economy in Korea from when I got here in 1996 with my $300 and a plane ticket, and the growth and, you know, the crash in 97 to 98, and then the 99 picking up, and Koreans putting all their gold together to give back to society. There's nothing like Korea. I'll give you an example of this heartbeat or this thriving passion that Koreans have is the subway system. Okay, the subway system, everybody walked on the left. Nobody knew why they walked on the left, but everybody was walking on the left, and Korea decided one day that, hey, you know what, we're going to change that. And so now everybody walks on the right in Korea. Only Korea can do that. You know, if, you know, in America where I come from, if everybody says, okay, we're going to start doing something else, people are like, yeah, right. But Korea, I love a word in Korea that is, Koreans say uri. There's a great uri culture or our culture in Korea. And I don't know of another, there might be other cultures like this, but I don't know of them. And so that word of our is a unique to Korea in that everything's ours. And so that togetherness, that uniformity, they can make changes here like no other country. So probably the passion, Koreans are very aggressive and they're going to get it done. Hard-working people. And so that pace, I enjoyed that pace. I don't want to do it forever. You know, there is a time. The education, now that my kids are getting older, the education system here past the 6th grade, I don't know if I want to put them through that strain of the education system. But I have loved that Jung, the brothers that I have here that are very close to me, that if I ever have a problem, I can call them up and I know they have my back. And that passion, I think those are all combined that I love being here.
So your business keeps you really busy, I imagine. Your family keeps you busy. And on top of that, you're also going for your doctorate, which we talked about a little bit a while ago. So how is it that you're able to manage time to be able to do all these different things? And also, it seems like you're doing all these things really well.
Well, thank you.
Or are you?
You know, I'm a fan of if you're going to do it well. Don't do it halfway. You know, go all the way if you're going to do it. And I don't sleep a lot. In fact, my wife, I say, I average about 4 or 5 hours, and she says, no, you average 2. I don't sleep a lot because I think sleep is a waste of time. And there's too much to do. No, but I am doing my doctorate here at Yonsei University. And what a challenge this has been, but how fun it's been too. I did my MBA also at Yonsei, all in the Korean program. So that was a challenge. But you just block off time and you're pretty consistent on doing it. Otherwise you'll never do it, especially with a doctorate.
Why are you going for a doctorate? It seems like you already have the business skills, you have your MBA. Why subject yourself to that type of torture?
Great question. I've been asked that many times by my wife too. One of the reasons is I will go teach one day at Brigham Young University Hawaii campus. I graduated from BYU in Hawaii, and it's a campus that is just a phenomenal place to be, and I've always wanted to go teach there, and with a doctorate, it's much easier. Okay, let's go. There you go.
On a clear yet chilly day, the Rogers family heads over to the exhibition with great anticipation.
Are you excited to see black art?
Black art?
Uh-huh.
Is it 3D? 3D black art?
It's 3D black art.
It's March 1st, a very meaningful holiday in Korea that commemorates the independence movement. PJ Rogers has gained vast knowledge of Korean culture while living here for the past 2 decades. But is he aware of the significance of this holiday?
Actually, the Samiljeol, I understand in Korea, is when the movement against Japan really started. So Yu Gwang-soo is what I understand. She really started the movement saying, hey, Japan, we're not going to take this anymore. We want our country back. And so that's when the whole movement started. 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. Hello. 오늘 사람 많아요?
네, 많습니다.
They said it's very busy today. 그럼 못 들어가나요, 우리?
들어갈 수 있습니다.
Oh, but we can go in.
His cheerful and witty personality brings laughter to not only his family, but strangers as well. Feeling at ease with the Rogers family, who are well accustomed to Korean culture and fluent in the language, the guide describes the displayed artworks in detail as PJ and his family listen attentively.
So he says when you hold the hand like this and you take a picture, it looks like Tinkerbell's on your hand. You want to take a picture like that?
They come across a familiar animation character, and Cooper can't hide his excitement.
Cooper, come here. Here, stand right here. Stand right here.
Good boxing, boxing.
Here, stand right here.
Good
Go like this, box him, box him. Cooper, look at me.
You guys want to do it?
No, do it. Okay, here, come here. Hold on.
But when asked to get his picture taken, Cooper shyly runs away. His sisters aren't so shy about it, though, and he musters up the courage to do the same. Finally, the entire family starts to fully enjoy the exhibition together.
Because I see the pictures, it's kind of fun and it makes me happy.
What is that? Is that a rose?
No.
Is that and look, he's pouring water. Oh, wow. Wow. Hey.
All of a sudden, the lights are turned off to present the glow-in-the-dark artworks that are the highlight of the 3D black art. The exhibition is divided into 3 sections, each with a unique and intriguing theme. The kids seem delighted to see the diverse array of artworks, which keeps PJ busy trying to capture each moment on camera.
I got the rabbit
Oh, that's cute. I'm enjoying it actually probably more than the kids do. But I wish I had my better camera. You know, the really nice camera? We didn't bring it, so all we have is these cameras. I wish we had the nicer camera. It would be fun to take them.
With their dad and older sisters running off in different directions, Leah and Cooper show a sense of restraint, staying by their youngest sibling. With such childlike innocence, PJ is like one of the kids, and his wife Lori probably feels as if she's taking care of 6 kids, not 5.
Sometimes they're not always happy.
It's part fun for me, but then part more responsibility because I have to keep track of all the kids. Sometimes I have to look around and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, make sure everybody's there. But as long as they're having fun, I'm having fun. Well, hopefully when the weather gets warmer, we can take our kids out to the Han River. They want to ride the duck boats.
PJ, Lori, and their 5 kids seem to be bursting with energy whenever they are together, and today is no different.
It's very cool, and I like to spend time more here with my family.
You know, it's a little bit difficult, but not too bad, because we're used to so many kids, and so it's kind of normal for us to have 5 kids out and about in Seoul, Korea.
The Rogers families say that they are the happiest when they're together, no matter what they do or where they are. As long as they have one another, happiness will be found in every corner, in a country they now call their home, Korea. I imagine that you too might have come from a large family. Is that true?
I did. I'm one of 8 children. I'm number 7. There's 4
Wow.
boys and 4 girls. We have 36 nephews and nieces, I think.
36 nephews and nieces.
So we have a large family.
How do you maintain all the birthday cards and gifts and things like that?
It's with your smartphone. Your smartphone says, hey, so-and-so's birthday's coming up. Oh, gotta get it. It's very easy with a smartphone.
Yeah, without technology nowadays, it'd be hard to do a lot of things.
Yes.
But maintaining connections with your family seems like it's essential to have.
Amen. It is. But it's, the large family, for people that haven't been in a large family, they don't understand the fun of it. In fact, with our 5 kids, people will come over and say, wow, your house is so, it's always noisy but to me, that's normal. The noise and doesn't bother me.
Wow.
To other people, noise in their house bothers them, but to me, it's a natural thing.
Where would you say are your values regarding family?
Having been raised in the LDS, in the Mormon Church, that's the basis of things. In fact, there's a saying that I love. It is that no amount of success can compensate for failure in your home. And I'm a big fan of that. So, yeah, I love working and I love making and building this company and what have you. But if I have to do this and my kids don't get to see me, I'm going to change what I do. In fact, I have a self-rule. If I have to stay away from my house more than 5 dinners a month, I will change my occupation.
Really?
Yeah.
5 dinners?
5 dinners. So
Wow.
if I have to miss more than 5 dinners a month with with my family, I'm going to go work at 7-Eleven and do something else and move into a smaller home, live on a tent in the beach or something. I mean, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to hang out and be with my family. And so really it's the religious part of it is a big part of our life. It's huge. And so like personal prayer, family prayer. We do something interesting on Sundays where we'll sit around as a group and maybe we'll have guests over or just our family and we talk about what we learned in church. And so we're kind of together. We do something else that's fun. On Monday nights, typically we have what's called family home evening.
Okay.
In fact, maybe I can show you on the refrigerator. There's a chart that for family home evening. It lists everybody's names on if they're going to be conducting family home evening, if they're going to give the lesson, the scripture, the activity, or do refreshments. And so everybody gets to change every time. And so what it is, it can be 5 minutes or it can be 35 minutes of time where our family's all together. We have an opening song, and our little Leah, you met Leah a while ago, but our little 4-year-old will get up and go, okay, welcome to family home evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Leah. She'll introduce herself and conduct the meeting.
Oh, that's
This is
so
a little
cute.
4-year-old.
Wow.
And we do this every Monday night. And so they'll change. Sometimes the 4-year-old will give the lesson, or Jada or Amaya will give the lesson. And it's a short, it's not a long time, but it's a short time where the whole family gets together and they know that this is our family time. We don't take phone calls. We don't do anything else during this time. And it's at the end of the day, it's all about family.
I know that you are not ethnically Korean, but being in Korea where family is so important, do you feel that there's a kind of resonance with being in a society where family is valued as much as your family back home valued family?
Yeah, good question. What's interesting is Korea. I love Korea. I love Korea. I really enjoy being here. But there's something that's different that's changed about Korea. My father was actually here during the Korean War. And having a father that was here, he experienced a different Korea than I knew.
Yes.
But something I'll tell you a bit about this is he was here in 52 to 54, left and came back in 97. I invited him,
Wow.
I brought him back. We landed at the Kimpo airport at the time, before Incheon. And he walks out, and one of his first comments to me about Korea was, wow, PJ, Koreans aren't friendly as they used to be. And that kind of shocked me. I'm thinking, Dad, what are you talking about? And he goes, the Korea that I left, you would see people walking on the street all saying hello to each other. And I went, well, because they knew each other. He goes, no, they didn't. He says any elderly person that would walk by, everyone would always say hello to them.
Yes.
And he says, that's not what's happening here now. So that was different.
So the change from right after the Korean War and during the Korean War, after the Korean War, when your father was here last, or before,
Right.
and what, 45 years
Right.
later,
Right.
has dramatically changed
It
in his
dramatically
eyes.
changed. And the family part of it too, because I agree, family in Korea was a very important part. It was the most important part to Koreans. Very, very important. But through the industrialization of Korea, it's also kind of taken a back seat to success. Now you have, before you had, all moms did not work. Most all moms were at home with kids. And now most moms are working. And so, and then the priorities of fathers to their mothers, you know, what's the most important thing to them.
Yes.
And so I do believe that Korea, you know, historically has been a very family-oriented country. And I think they need to get back to that.
Great story. I'm curious, when your father came back to Korea in '97, aside from noticing that Korea has changed a bit, did he mention anything positive, like really positive?
Oh, it was, I mean, that was one of the, I think, the negative thing that the only negative thing that he had mentioned. It was all positive. My dad's glass, like mine, is all half full too. And well, first of all, this is a little bit off of your question, but I was raised with a father that I was always the best. He was always saying, wow, PJ, you're the greatest, even though I was the worst. You know?
like what would be an example that you were so bad at something, but he
For
still...
example, you know, when I was young, I was fat. I mean, when I was fat, you know, my brother would say, well, PJ, he was so fat, he wouldn't sit around he'd sit around the house. You know, and we had a dog, and he sat on his tail, and we had to call him Beaver, you know, because that dog, you know, he's just so fat. But my father would always talk about how great I was, you know, and how fast and how awesome I was. And I would even, you know, I wouldn't even get any gaming time because I was so bad. You'd be a bench warmer, you know, yay team. And my dad would tell me how wonderful of a, you know,
Bench warmer you were.
bench warmer I was. And he would sometimes go and call his friends and tell, when I could hear him, and tell how wonderful his boy's doing. And so it inspired me to be better. It made me want to be the greatest. And so always everything is half full. Everything, you know, I'm the greatest. I'm the winner. I'm, you know, the greatest. And in fact, when I was 12 years old, my father put above my bed a sign, just wrote on a piece of paper, I am a winner. And he had me read that all the time, out loud.
Wow.
I'm a winner. I'm a winner. Trying to convince me that mentally I'm a winner. He always taught me that your thoughts, you know, then take your, make your words, and your words make your actions. Your actions make your habits, all the way to your destiny. And so I've been able to try to control my thoughts quite well because of that programming.
As a child, you said that you were overweight. Now, did you ever feel a lack of confidence, and that's why your father was trying to instill confidence in you? Or was there ever a time where you just went to your dad and said, I'm doing so badly in school, people don't like me, or blah, blah, blah? Was there ever a time where you felt so insecure that he had to do that as a remedy?
You know, because it started at such a young age, I never lacked for confidence. It was really a different household. My mother and father were always, you're the greatest. PJ, you are so happy. Why are you so happy? Oh my God, you are so happy. I heard that 50 times a day.
Wow.
My kids now, with my kids,
Yes.
you know, they are it's not Jada, it's Jada the Great. You know, or Maya, it's not a Maya, it's Maya the Great. You know, or Leah Badia the Great. You know, that, in fact, if you ask them a lot of times, that's what they will say. And because they need to think that they're the great. It's kind of like the girl that thinks she's so ugly, but she wants everybody else to think she's pretty. You got to think you're pretty first.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And so before you got to think you're great to become great. And so that's the mentality. So I really never experienced you know, I was fat and terrible, but I didn't know it. You know, because most fat kids will wear a shirt, you know, to always cover their belly. I didn't care because I was the greatest athlete. You know, I thought I was, you know, God's gift to baseball or whatever.
Too cute.
But and so I was blessed with. In fact, an interesting part of our growing up in our home was, and I used the same thing in our house. We cannot use the word can't.
Interesting. So no negativity in your speech at home.
So for example, if I ask you, Susan, if I said, Susan, can you run a 4-minute mile? And if you were to answer me in a sentence, how would you say?
I am unable to run a 4-minute mile? No?
Translated, I can't run a 4-minute mile.
Yeah, I can't run a 4-minute mile.
But that would be incorrect. If I ask you if your future husband, for example, if I said your future husband, could he bear a child? Well, you'd say, no, he can't bear a child.
Right.
Well, that's correct. So my dad, for example, would say to me, PJ, there's only one thing you can't do. You cannot have babies. And so he would look at my little sister and say, Phoebe, there's nothing you can't do. So that mentality of there's no can't. So it's not that you can't run a mile in 4 minutes, it's that you haven't trained well enough to run a mile in 4 minutes.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right, I see.
So to a Korean that says, oh, I can't speak English, no, it's not that you can't speak English, so you haven't learned English yet. And so that's the mentality. Because we as people can't become so easy to say.
Yes.
So if we think that, we say that, then that becomes our habits. And so if I was born again, I would hope that I'm born to my same parents, because I was very, very grateful for that. And something that was mentioned to me that I think would be interesting, if I was born as my daughter's son, one of my daughters, if I was their son, to be born from, in their family, I hope that I'd raise my daughters well enough that they would be a great mother to me as their son. I think that would be fun.
So it looks like we have a very special guest here, and I'd love for you to introduce this lovely lady.
Yes, this is what I like to call my eternal companion, but also my smoking hot, sexy wife.
Ah!
This is Lori.
Great. So nice to meet you, Lori.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you so much for letting us film in your home and take some time away from you and your husband to share him with the rest of the world.
You're very welcome.
I'd like to ask you about your husband, because I think that you probably know him better than anyone else. So I'd like to ask you how you see your husband. What type of person is he? And just what made you fall in love with him?
PJ's very compassionate. He's very sincere and giving. He will help anybody that's in need. And most of all, he is a very devoted father and husband. Wow. There is not a day that goes by that he does not tell me how beautiful I am and how much he loves me.
Wow, that's so sweet. What is it about your wife that attracts you to her?
What attracts me to my wife, or attracts my wife to myself, she is one dedicated lady. If she's gonna do it, if she said she will do it, she will do it. And she's completely honest. I love someone that's completely honest. She loves her kids. Can I say that again? She loves. One more time, she loves her children. And she completely supports our marriage.
Wow.
100%. I come first, and she completely supports our relationship. And the decisions that I will make as a father. I say, sometimes jokingly, I say, I'm the boss of my home, and I have my wife's permission to say so.
Would you say that that's an accurate kind of...
That's very accurate.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. That's very accurate.
Wow. I believe that prevention to any type of disease, starts with just making sure that you're healthy, right? And so
Sure.
It sounds like you guys have a very, very healthy way of looking at your relationship. And is there something that you do to make sure that you kind of keep it healthy and keep the passion kind of burning between the two of you?
What do you think?
Well, we make sure that we go out on dates. Our kids know that if we say we're going out on a date, they know it's with other people. But if we say we're going on a hot date, they know it's just mommy and daddy going out.
A hot date.
Hot date.
We do.
That's awesome.
So the kids know when we say hot date, they're not invited. Nobody else is invited. It's just mom and dad.
I see.
And so it's a hot date is between mom and dad.
That's really sweet. Now, do you go traveling, just the two of you now? I mean, I guess with the baby, it's not so easy to be separated from the youngest one. but do you travel alone together too?
Well, we talked about this even before we got married, and then shortly after getting married, is that we would take 1 to 2 trips, just us, a year.
Nice.
You know, and it might be a weekend at a hotel in Korea, or it might be going to Hong Kong for a weekend, just for a short trip.
I see.
And I know in the Korean culture, that's like, you don't do that. You don't leave your kids, you know. But at the end of the day, the stronger the couple is, the stronger the family is.
Yes.
And so I'm a big believer in spending time with us, and then with us as a family to travel as well.
That's great. Now, I know that the two of you have decided to raise your children here in Korea, and it has very different educational values than in the States. Is there a particular reason why you've chosen to send your children to a Korean school as opposed to an American school up until a certain grade?
First of all, at a young age, you're like a sponge, so it's easier for you to learn a second language. And for them to be bilingual, it's going to benefit them more in their life. In today's society, if you just speak one language, you do okay, but when you're bilingual, trilingual, it opens a lot more doors for careers.
Wow. So you've maintained a policy to speak English at home. Is it only English at home and then Korean outside?
Yes and no. It's mainly English at home because English is the mother tongue and the main language. But at the same time, sometimes I will speak Korean to our children. Sometimes if I don't want to know, or if I want to tell a secret and not let my wife understand, then I'll speak Korean. I'm just kidding. But I will. To me, it's not as much learning a language and being bilingual or trilingual as much as it is a confidence builder. I speak. In fact, my daughter Jada made the comment to me. It's been a year or so ago, but she said, "Dad, my church friends, who are mostly English speakers, they don't understand Korean. And my Korean friends, they don't understand English. But I understand both." And that was a confidence builder in her life that, hey, I can do something that these two don't. And so that, for me, it's more that they're not as fluent as it is that it's confidence. Hey, I can do this.
It seems that you do a lot of things to help build confidence in one another, in your family. Is this something that you actively kind of talk about? How do we build confidence in our family? Or is it just something natural because of who you are?
What do you think?
I think the way that PJ grew up, the way his dad always motivated him and always told him he was the greatest, he's trying to instill that, or he's not trying, he does. He instills that into our family. And it's so important for someone to be comfortable with who they are. And he understands that and really emphasizes that.
When you look at each other, I imagine that you can see each other's strengths and weaknesses. In a couple just short phrases, how would you describe each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses? Who goes first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
My wife's strengths are, she's honest. She is extremely dedicated. She loves her husband, completely supports her husband, and loves her children. If she had a weakness, it might be that she doesn't realize how great she is. And sometimes she doesn't, she truly doesn't, because I ask her, I says, do you think you're beautiful? And she's like, well, you know, she's not as positive, or she doesn't realize, one, her potential, or how wonderful and super duper that she is. That's probably a weakness if she had one.
Wow. Do you think that's true?
I think so. I have to admit, yes.
And for you with PJ, what do you think are his strengths and his weaknesses?
PJ, to me, has no weaknesses. He is an open book. What you see is what you get. There's nothing hidden about him. He says what he means, and if he makes you a promise, he keeps it. That's one thing that I can always do to him, is that if I think he's playing a joke on me or if he's lying, I can say, do you promise? And he can't say he promises unless he really does, because he doesn't break promises. So he is my Superman, because he doesn't, to me, he doesn't have any weaknesses.
Wow.
Well, we need to do this often. Please come here. We'll set up all cameras all the time in our house for those comments.
Well, invite me over anytime. I'll be happy to come over and do this anytime again. It's been such a pleasure to talk with both of you, and thank you so much again for opening up your home. And PJ, I trust that in the future you're going to have a lot of interesting projects kind of coming your way. And before we close out, I'd like to ask, what are some of your future projects and future plans?
You know, I believe that anybody that has been blessed with something should bless the lives of others. Where much is given, much is expected. And I have been blessed with great parents. Therefore, I must be a great parent. And I think I have the responsibility, not just the opportunity or responsibility, to teach other people maybe how they can be a better couple or better parents or give more to society or things like that. And so some of the things that I would like to do is offer some of the information or the things that I have to other people. Not for money per se, but just for fun, for the building up of, you know, the gospel of Jesus Christ to everybody on the planet, to let everybody know that they can have a happy family, that they can have a marriage where you don't argue, that you can have kids that love each other and love their parents, because the stronger the family is, the stronger the nation is, the stronger the world is. And so if I had one thing looking forward to do or project, that would be it.
And for any foreigners, meaning non-Koreans, who hope to come to Korea one day, either as a tourist or potentially to live here, what kind of advice would the two of you give them?
Don't take offense to everything that happens to you in Korea. I love Korea, and I love the culture. My mom's Korean, and I grew up with, you know, the culture. But when you come to Korea, you just have to go with the flow. Don't get offended when somebody pushes you in the subway, or if you're driving and somebody cuts you off. You should just, like I said, just go with the flow. I guess when in Rome.
Yes.
One thing I would add to that, I agree with that, but also there's so many fun things to experience outside of your hotel or just the Myeongdong area or the normal, you know, tourist spots. Go out into the mountains and see the temples, not in downtown Seoul, but out in the obscure places all over Korea. There's so much to see here. It's a beautiful country. To get on the KTX, the bullet train, and go down south, to go to the East Coast and see the beautiful beaches, the mountains, the fish markets, you know, all of the shijangs, they call them, where they sell everything and are bartering all the time. Those are just fun, great experiences. Oh, and the DMZ.
Yes.
If you come here to Korea, I would strongly suggest to go on the tour of the DMZ to experience that. That's a real border. It's still a very tense border.
Yes.
And I would suggest that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys again for being part of the interview and for having such an amazing family to share with our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank
and I'd love
you.
to see your family come out
Let's
and
see if we can get them.
enjoy our
Kids,
closing.
come here. Hey, come here.
Hi. Wow.
Okay.
Hi.
Come here. This is a serious shot. No, not crazy, not crazy. This is serious. Put your hands down. Big smiles, big smiles. Big smiles. 1, 2, 3, cheese.